From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. After more than 40 years on the bench, Judge Alice Gibney, the presiding justice of Rhode Island Superior Court, retired this week. I sat down with the PJ, as that position is called, in her courtroom a few weeks ago to talk about her career, memorable cases, and why she decided now was the time. Presiding Justice Alice Gibney, thank you so much for the time.
My pleasure.
So I guess my first question is, when did you know it was time to move on?
I guess I'd been thinking about it in the abstract for a year. You don't get to be 78 and not think about when it's time to go. But then a couple of months ago, I woke up one morning and thought, this is time. This is time. And it was just like that, because I'd never thought about it. Retirement wasn't even on my screen. And I have a husband who's happily retired for 14 years, and he's a poster child for a great retirement. I couldn't imagine it for myself because I thoroughly enjoyed coming to work, and still do. There'll be things I will profoundly miss when I leave, but it was time.
As a presiding justice, you're not handling trials, you're not on a trial calendar. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say I handle cases. I've always handled the asbestos cases. I still handle those. And I take the bench selectively for matters that can be done in brief.
Okay.
So trying the cases I used to try, I can't do.
Are there, from that time, are there cases that are memorable that stand out to you?
Station fire. When that happened, and it had just happened. Then Presiding Justice Rogers sent me to the site. A day was designated where lawyers who might potentially represent plaintiffs' families, as well as the defendants, were invited to the site. I was there to supervise. I had my immediate staff with me. I had my sheriff with me. And as you might imagine, it was a very powerful experience. There were easily over 100 lawyers who showed up. And I had been directed by the fire marshal as to where I could walk on site. So I went in blocks of threes. 3 lawyers at a time would come with me, and nobody spoke. They were pointing out things that they needed to remember. No particular note-taking. It was just to get a sense of things. The silence was overwhelming. It was like being in a church at a very holy moment. Nobody spoke. It was profoundly moving because they were so respectful. And it took a while to do the 3 people at a time walk through, but we did it. And that got the station fire saga started. And then ultimately, there were representatives from the plaintiff's bar, and there were representatives from the defense bar. And they met with me on a regular basis, and they established a protocol as to how things would proceed in an evidentiary fashion. And ultimately, when the case was transferred from the state court to the federal court, that order went with it, and it wasn't tinkered with. It was kept.
The fire, it's not lost on me, was in West Warwick, and that's your hometown. That's where you came from, and you are at one of the worst, probably the worst crime scene this state has ever seen, and it's in your own town. Did that make it more challenging for you?
There was one moment at the scene that crystallized that. To answer the question, at first, no. Subsequently, I became aware of some men younger than I, but I knew who they were, who their families were, who were firefighters. and were present that night. There was a firefighter who was a regular at the church I attended. He ultimately was a suicide. I remember when we were walking through the site, and you see remnants of this, that, and the other thing, and you know, imagine the old days when you'd stop and you'd get somebody to pump gas, and they'd have their name on a flap on their shirt. Yeah. There was a bit of a red flap with somebody's name on it. Mm. That personalized it to me. It didn't bring anybody particularly to mind, but it could have been anybody, and that was all it needed.
Well, and it's stuck with you for more than 2 decades now.
Oh, yeah.
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 I want to go back a little bit further in time out of my own curiosity and looking at your history. You signed the search warrant for Craig Price's home. In that role, look, you have to be a neutral and detached magistrate. You're reviewing the affidavit for probable cause to authorize that. But you're a human being, you're a mom, and you're looking at information that was not public at that time. People didn't know the horrors of what had happened. You were looking at that stuff. Even as a judge who had seen a lot to that point, was it shocking to you?
I remember, I think it was a Sunday. Why I say that, I don't know why. I was going down Buttonwoods Avenue. My son was young enough to be in a car seat in the back, and there were police cars. We were stopped, and they wanted to know if I knew anything about the Heatons. I didn't know anything about the Heatons, and on I went. I found out soon enough about the Heatons. They came to me for the search warrants, showed me what I needed to see. Off they went with the warrants. They found a couple of the weapons that he had used. I remember getting a call at night, like early in the morning, like 1 a.m. I think the captain who ran the investigation was Captain Carter. I don't know where I'm pulling that. I think it was.
That is correct.
And he called, and he came over with some men and showed me enough of what I needed to see. And then I think I signed another one. I remember getting another call from Captain Carter, also in the middle of the night. And I can remember he was weeping on the phone. I remember that because he told me that they'd found the perpetrator and he was 15. And I can remember hanging up the phone, and I woke my husband and I said, he's 15. My reaction was the same as Captain Carter. And in our neighborhood, the grammar school in our neighborhood was the grammar school that Craig Price attended. So a number of our friends' children were in his class when he was in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And he was always the class clown. And they were totally unaccepting of the possibility that this could be him. Absolutely not accepting. And of course, I'm thinking, if you only knew, you know.
When we come back, navigating the courts through its most challenging times, including an increase in threats toward judges. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. More now with my interview with the presiding justice of Rhode Island Superior Court, Alice Gibney. I'm hoping you can kind of explain specialty calendar role and why you think it's important. And did you, was that something that was important to you in your role as PJ to keep those going and form new ones?
Both. We have the adult drug court. It has been very, very successful. We have the diversion program, which was started relatively recently in collaboration with the Attorney General's office, going very well. We have a sexual predator calendar. How's that?
Yeah. It's depressing that you need it.
It's depressing that we need it,
That's
but
right.
we need it.
That's right.
We need it.
Yeah.
And we have a very good magistrate who now handles 2 or 3 calendars like that. We have the land use calendar. We do that.
COVID. You were presiding justice throughout the global pandemic. That had a tremendous impact on the Superior Court of Rhode Island. Was it one of the most challenging moments in your job?
It was far and away the most challenging, primarily to the court administrator and those who helped her administrate us through it. What people might forget is we were never closed for business. We tried cases. It was not easy. I mean, we had panels between the jurors' seats. We did everything we could to keep everybody watered, healthy, attended, and by judging the jury evaluations, they appreciated it. So we continued with business. We just had to be mindful. We had, for example, if it were motions, we had somebody in charge of wipes, so that as soon as somebody finished arguing, they wiped the mic, they wiped where they were sitting. We paid a lot of attention to what we were going through. And you have to bear in mind, this court is a personal court. It's personal to the lawyers, it's personal to the litigants, certainly personal to the judge. We don't do remote. It's not on our menu. We can't do it, we don't want to do it, we've never done it. And we're sticking to that.
And it's high volume, unlike,
It's high volume, and at one point, Marissa Brown and I had written a letter to the Journal because there had been an article, not an inaccurate article, but there had been an article in the Journal that indicated how numbers were down trial-wise or something like that. And the purpose of our letter was to list everything that had occurred during COVID in this court, the number of jury trials, the number of bench trials, the number of decisions that had been issued, motions heard, dispositions, you name it, you name it. It was not easy. It was not easy.
I'll say it, 2025 feels like it's not a great time to be a judge. I've covered stories on Judge McConnell at U.S. District Court getting reprehensible threats and pizza deliveries to his house in the name of a man who was gunned down, the son of a judge. Like just terrible, terrible things. How concerned are you about judicial safety in this moment and overall about the climate that we're in right now?
I remember sentencing someone. In fact, I was pregnant, so it was 40 years ago. And he was just an odd duck. He was a threatening guy who was being very disruptive at the mall, and subsequently he did some time. I was sitting in courtroom 2, and I remember getting a letter from him, and he was at the prison, and he was asking for me. And he asked about my son. So not only did he know I'd had the baby, he knew it was a boy, and he knew his name was Nick. You can imagine, that's seared in my memory. And we called the state police, and my son was looked after, had protection at school. He didn't know it. He didn't know it until he got out of college. He was stunned when I finally told him, but he never knew it. I never forgot it.
I'm sure.
And that has happened, notwithstanding the fact that I've been uncivil more often than not. I've had police protection on 2 or 3 occasions. Most recently, this past winter, it wasn't the result of a criminal case, but it was the result of someone who was very troubled and who knew me from my past. But that would be illustrative of something we now deal with, and that's mental health or lack of mental health. It's not unusual, and it's a cause for daily concern.
On a different topic, women on the bench.
Yeah.
The Rhode Island Supreme Court is now majority woman.
Yeah.
You, I believe, are the second woman to be presiding justice in Rhode Island. That's correct?
Clarence Murray was the first.
Have you seen that evolve in your years, on the bench and as presiding justice? And are you satisfied with where the mix stands right now?
I've seen it evolve. It's evolved a lot. I'd be happier if there were more. It's certainly evolved among members of the bar. Now you'll look out into the peanut gallery with new lawyers or new law clerks. There they are. Mm-hmm. And I hope they go into the courtroom as well as into corporate rooms and tax rooms or wherever tax lawyers go.
When you were in law school, early 1970s, were there a lot of women in the classroom with you,
no,
learning criminal law and constitutional law?
No. In fact, I think there were 6 in the whole school. And I can remember, it's a true story, it's a nice story. My constitutional law professor, played bridge with Hugo Black every week.
Oh, wow.
So in the spring,
famous judge.
In the spring, Hugo Black of the United States Supreme Court would invite John Keefe's constitutional law class to come to the Supreme Court. And we'd have a Supreme Court class in Justice Black's chambers, and he'd talk to us. He was very sweet, very avuncular, very old, but very, very, very with it and nice. He died the next year. And the next time we had class, it was discussed, well, we've got to send a thank you note to Justice Black. Well, of course it would be me who'd be sending the note. Who else, right? I'm the girl. At least that's, I think, was the thought process. There wasn't any other good reason. So I sent a thank you note to Justice Black on behalf of the class. And he was nice enough to send me a thank you for my thank you, which I have laminated.
When we come back, Judge Gibney's advice to the governor on the kind of person that should replace her. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. The presiding justice of Superior Court, Alice Gibney, officially retired on Friday. Her thoughts on her replacement and advice to the governor who makes that pick. Look, including yours, there seems to be a fair number of vacancies on the horizon or on, in the judiciary right now, which means there will be a lot of new faces on the bench. What's your advice to them?
As they come on the bench?
Yeah.
Be on time. Be respectful of the lawyers and their clients, and be decisive. The lawyers need a decision. Their clients are entitled to a decision, and they're entitled to appropriate behavior. And they're entitled to you being on time. You got a great job. Be on time. They've got other places to be. And I tell lawyers that this relative to jurors. These jurors have rearranged their lives to do jury service. They've rearranged elder care, daycare. They've canceled or rearranged their appointments. They've rearranged trips. So for God's sakes, just be on time.
I'm going to ask you a question you will not answer. Your replacement, do you have anyone in mind? Do you think somebody would be a good fit?
Yes.
Okay. Will you disclose that person?
No.
Okay. How much influence do you have on that decision?
I don't think I have any.
No.
I mean, I don't think I have any. It's ultimately going to be the governor's decision, and I know it will have been with a lot of input from the House and the Senate. But I don't expect a call from the governor to ask my opinion. That's not to say I won't get one, but I don't expect one.
Well, the governor or someone on his staff may be watching our conversation right now. So with that in mind, without saying who you think would be a good fit, what do you want the governor to know about what's important in picking this job?
You need someone who is physically up for it. You need someone who's a worker. You need someone who treats lawyers with respect. You need someone who treats staff well. And you need somebody who's smart and likes to work.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I don't say likes lawyers. I don't say it lightly because, I talk about keeping the door open so that there's easy access. He or she should be user-friendly because a lot of the lawyers, let's use lawyers as an example, if a lawyer comes to see the presiding justice, in many cases, it's taken a lot out of him or her just to get to the doorway. And you have to be sensitive to that. Mm-hmm. And you have to know, and you have to invite them in, have them be seated, you're seated, and then you wait for them to talk and tell you why they're there. And sometimes all it takes is a pat on the wrist, sometimes it's time for a hug. They can get emotional. They get emotional. I certainly get emotional if they get emotional. And the number of people who have come by to wish me well over the last 2 or 3 weeks have mostly been people who have had some sort of a bump in the road over the years, some going back many years, who just wanted to come and wish me well.
That must be rewarding.
Yes.
What do you think, or maybe a better framing of it is, what do you hope your legacy will be?
That I was fair, that I treated people well, and that I was patient. Yeah.
Well, you were patient with me, Your Honor, and I really
well,
appreciate it.
Well, you're very easy to be patient to.
Not everybody says that. Your Honor, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
If you missed any of the conversation with Presiding Justice Alice Gibney, you can watch it on WPRI.com. This week on Eli Sherman's Behind the Story, sports journalist Kevin McNamara joins Eli and the Globe's Dan McGowan to talk college basketball and the pitfalls of legalized sports betting. Watch it on the free 12 Plus app. We'll see you next week. Do not forget to set your clocks back on Sunday. Thanks for watching.